My name is Mike Patrick. I'm an associate in the Farron Co media team. I've been at Farron's for 8 years. We deal with a whole range of issues ranging from traditional print media, defamation, privacy, data protection, etc., through to sort of issues concerning social media. Social media over the past sort of 5 to 10 years especially has, the use of it has risen dramatically. You sort of look 10 years ago, you might have been talking about MySpace. Now you're talking very much about Twitter and Facebook. Ofcom, for example, have conservatively estimated that I think 38% of people online use social media. And you only need to look at the fact that Charlie Sheen has 3 million new followers on Twitter to realise its impact. So increasingly we're being asked to advise on those kind of issues. As a publisher, the biggest problem that we see is when journalists go and use your brand and are employed by you to generate content, for example, on your website or in your traditional print magazine or newspaper, but are going off and using Twitter very much to your advantage. But also there are risks as a result. For example, if they publish defamatory material on their own Twitter account, to what extent are you, as their employer, liable for that content? Similarly with copyright, breaches of copyright or privacy issues as well. They subsequently apologised, but even that apology was not sufficient for the Press Complaints Commission, which found that material posted on Facebook to a limited audience, particularly by individuals who were not out seeking sort of public exposure and notoriety, for that then to be published in a national newspaper was a breach of their privacy rights, a breach of Clause 3 of the PCC Code.
My name is Alastair and I'm an associate in the intellectual property and commercial team at Farron Co. We generally advise clients, media companies in particular, publishers, on the protection and exploitation of their content, and increasingly over the last few years involving that similar issues in a social media context. I think there is a tension between social media, which is after all for individuals social as it implies, and using that for a business purpose, and I think as time goes on people will work out how to most effectively utilise it and also how to navigate the legal and regulatory framework. Twitter, as you can see, probably outdated, is younger in that sense, or is newer than almost every single piece of legislation I've listed on the slide itself, and you can see from that very fact that the law hasn't necessarily caught up with where we are in terms of social media. I think one of the key things that will help set up a robust and legally compliant approach is to make sure that you've got good guidelines in place that regulate both who owns the Twitter account or the Facebook account, if that's what's going to be set up, and also making sure the employees or your freelancers are fully aware of what your policy is on social media and how you want to project your brand and your publication in that forum. Those policies would also be useful just to set out who in the organisation can tweet, what they can tweet about, and obviously they would need to be carefully worded, but probably not too specific, because social media is an ever-changing landscape and you don't want to end up with something that becomes obsolete quite quickly. The rise of social media has been the phenomenon over the last couple of years, and we're probably likely to face new sites and new platforms and new technologies coming up. We haven't even talked about apps and mobile exploitation also, so I think these digital opportunities will develop. There'll be new players coming into the market, and consequently issues and challenges will arise.